Welcome to a video that is going to be a little bit different than my normal tutorial videos. This video is going to be a series of challenges that I've laid out that I think best describe and explain the Create Post-Production update and give a little bit of challenge to those that already know it. Things that I've ran into in my survival world, things that I've tried to configure and didn't know how until I spent a bunch of time trying things out, and just general things that I think would help you all become professionals in this mod. Let's go over the structure of this video and the structure of wherever the heck I am right now. There will be a world download down in the description. You'll have to join my Discord to get it. And hey, while you're there, you should check out some of the community builds, or maybe if you wanted to, join my YouTube membership or subscribe on Twitch to get access to a Patreon-only Minecraft server. There will also be schematics in the description if you'd rather go that route. They're a little bit more challenging to set up, so I'd recommend the world download. A few weeks ago, I also posted a complete guide and tutorial to the Create Post-Production update, which goes over a lot of the basics and some of the more advanced stuff in way more detail than what we're going to cover here. This video is made assuming that you either know everything from that video or have watched that video to get a little bit of context, with the intent that this is to kind of teach you about some of the edge cases. That's what some of these are focusing on, or just drive home the basics with actual hands-on practice. This video is intended for you to build whatever challenge alongside me. So what I'm going to do in each of the challenges, we have 11 total here, is I am going to start out with a goal. So for this, get items from A to B using a package. Currently it's set up to use it with just standard items and funnels, but we want to upgrade this to packages. What will happen then is I will ask you to pause the video, try to work through it yourself, and then when you're either done or you're stuck, you can unpause it and I can work through how to do it. The good thing about these types of challenges is they all build off of each other. So you can see 1 and 2 are relatively similar. And for those that already know how to kind of do challenge number 1, you can see, hey, challenge number 2 already does it. So if you're ever stuck, you can just look to the challenge that is next to see what the heck you have to do. So now that you have an overview of all the different challenges, let's get into challenge number 1. Again, chapters are going to be in the description of this video if you want to skip ahead to different challenges, and I'll try to have those labeled as best as I can in those chapters. So let's move on to challenge number 1. Our goal for this is to move items from this item vault to this chest using packages. This is probably the most basic use of packages. We will only need a packager and a power source for redstone. As I mentioned, the default functionality of this currently is to drop out an item at a time. Instead, we're going to switch this over to do packages, of course. And this is the point to pause this video and try this out for yourself. So what we're going to do is set up a packager to connect to our item vault here, pop a lever on it, and then we're going to move our andesite belt funnel onto the packager here. This will, if we create a package by powering the lever, it'll power the packager, creating a package. This will bring our package all the way over to the end here, where if we set this funnel to insert, we will get a package in the chest. Obviously, we'd like this to be an item in this chest, so all we have to do is the same thing on this side, inverted, and drop our package back out, and you can see the package then gets loaded into the chest. That is our challenge done. If we do that with a bunch of different items now, power this, we will make a bunch of packages created, I guess just one, wow, that's kind of crazy, and we will transfer multiple items at a time. That is kind of the point of this. Packages will transfer way more items at a time using the same setup. Now let's move on to challenge number 2. The goal of this challenge is to request items from A to B using a stock link. So a little bit more difficult here. We need something called a stock ticker, which I've plopped down, and a blaze burner or a mob on a seat. We have the same package setup that we did for challenge number 1, so now we can get this set up. For this challenge, all we're gonna need is a stock link. Pause the video now if you wanna try to learn how to do this, but let's get started. So we're gonna right click the stock ticker with the stock link, and put that on the packager that is connected to our item vault that we're trying to take items out of. I'm going to put an item hatch on our item vault and put some items in our item vault, and we should see when we right click on the blaze burner here that those items show up in our stock keeper. We want those sent over to B, so what we're going to do is make that request. That'll drop a package out, put it into our packager over on this side, and plop it into the chest here. This is the basics of packages. Your B could be your access point, so let's say I wanted some more item hatches. I could set that up, request it to B, and click send. And we will get our package of whatever we ordered delivered here shortly. Pretty simple so far. Let's go on to some more complicated steps here. I have now added a C. You may have noticed in this example, if we wanted to, I don't know, bypass B and go to C, there's no real way to do that. So this challenge is figuring out a way to do that. So with our belt system here, how would you get items from here all the way over to C bypassing B. I'll let you pause now to think of this. And again, this challenge is relatively simple. We only need a funnel and a package filter. So to actually fix this, we are going to replace this andesite funnel with a brass belt funnel and then set up a package set to B, where we will then put into our brass funnel. And now that we have that set up, let's request some items. So we're gonna request just a stack. We wanna send this to C, remember, because that is our goal. Request items from A all the way to C, bypassing B. And since we have our package filter, the funnel won't pick up our package labeled C, since this one's looking for packages labeled B, and we have our item hatch. We can confirm that the package filter works by sending a package to B and making sure it gets picked up here. And it does. So there we go. Challenge number 4. This next one is to request items from A to C using chains. So I've set up the same system that we have right over there. We need to now upgrade this to use chains, which uses 3 new blocks. The first one is a chain conveyor, and a frogport. And this is the point to pause this video and try this out for yourself. I recommend sending up our chains and chain conveyors first, but in order to do that, we need to break what we have existing here. I usually put my chain conveyors on shafts because I think they look cool. You obviously don't need to do this. I'm gonna put one here and one over here. The exact distance away doesn't really matter. If you're curious of how these work, I have a full tutorial video that this is kind of supplementary to that you should check out instead. All we need to do is power these so they're spinning, and then we can get in our frogports. We're gonna need a frogport on each one of our packagers here. This one I'm gonna label A, this one I'm going to label B, and this far one I'm gonna label C. Once that's set up, we should be able to see our requests here. I wanna send this over to C, and we should see the whole thing work using chains. The frogport puts our package onto the chain, and this one, once it arrives, should pick it up and eat it. There we go. Challenge 4, all done. Now let's move on to challenge 5. For this one, we want to convert B into a crushing wheel system. This crushing wheel system that we're going to be adding is something I like to call a module. The reason I'm calling it a module is because it is modular. You could put this anywhere on the chain. If I wanted to, I could put my crushing wheel system over here. For this example though, I am just going to break and replace B and set up a crushing wheel system in its wake. And this is the point to pause this video and try this out for yourself. I've kind of gone over this in our full create post-production tutorial video already, so I'm gonna go a little bit quick here. This is going to be your standard crushing wheel system. I'm going to have gearboxes on either side connected with a shaft and then crushing wheels in the middle here. If we connect this to power now, we can see, well, they're spinning the opposite way. Let's invert that. And there we go. They are now crushing. We're going to put a chute on top and a chest on top of this. This is your most standard crushing wheel system, maybe ever. Now to add in packagers and frogports to this so that it is connected up to our system. For any module, I like to have the sending system be automated. What this means is we're going to add a frogport down to this packager here, and we're going to set this to only send packages because we don't want this to pick anything up. And then we're going to need a way to power our package, which is something we're going to do in a second. But before we do that, this is a new function that I haven't talked about yet in this video. I do talk about it in my full tutorial video. We need to put a sign on this packager to tell it where to go. What I want to happen is when we request items to go to our crushing wheel system, they get crushed. I want them to automatically send back to our storage system, which is labeled A. To do that, all we need to do is change our sign from B to A, and this will set any package destination being generated by this packager to go all the way around to A. The last step we need is to power this thing. I'm going to use a pulse timer so that we don't have to power it every second of the day. The reason for this is because, well, if we're crushing a bunch of items and a bunch of items go into this chest, it's easier to send one package with a few stacks of items compared to if this were powered all the time. Every time even a singular item goes into this chest, it will be immediately sent out into a package. This is not ideal because in bigger systems like the ones we're building over there may be too many packages and your chain system might get overloaded. So now that we have the sending system post-crushing set up, we need to set up the receiving system, which is going to be going right here. Something interesting to note that we are running into is our frog port is too tall. It's not going to be able to connect to this. So we're going to need to shrink this by 1, and there's not a good way to do this, but I'm going to do it this way just for funsies. What we can do is pop on a packager, frogport, we're going to name this B, and then over on this side of the chest, we're going to place in a brass funnel to drop the items out to be crushed like that. From there, that actually should be everything, so we can test this thing out. Let me put a few stacks of cobblestone into our item vault there, and we can go ahead and request this to B. we should see this package go around, get picked up by our Frogport, and then get crushed. We can see the particles there. Once that finishes crushing, it should show up here, and a short while later, our pulse timer will send a pulse for our packager to package up our gravel and send it back to our storage system. There we go, our gravel has been created, and in a second here, this Frogport will send out our package. There we go, it's sent and it goes straight back into our storage system where we can see we have gravel. There we go, our first automated production. This has been a lot. So let's chill with Jim and his deceased relative for a minute. That's enough of that. Let's move on to challenge number 6. You can see there are some differences compared to what I just built live. We are now using chain conveyors to power our crushing wheels. For our challenge number 6, we want to automate creating gravel using factory gauges. We have cobblestone in here. We know that we want to send cobblestone to our crushing wheel Frogport to turn it into gravel. We could do that with factory gauges. And this is the point to pause this video and try this out for yourself. So to initially configure our factory gauges, we need to right click them on a stock ticker or a stock link works, and then place them on any block face. You could do the top, bottom, sides, doesn't really matter. From there, I'm gonna select these with an open hand just because it's easier for my little pea brain, but you can also get the item itself and right click it onto the factory gauge. We want to create gravel, and in order to do that, we need cobblestone first and foremost. And in order to make gravel, we need to select the recipe settings, click add a new connection, and connect it to cobblestone. This will now appear here. We set these to a stack, and let's set this to go to the crusher, which is what I've named this Frogport. If you've named that Frogport B, you want to send it to B. From there, we can right click and hold and request 10 stacks, and we should see requests start being made for packages to be sent over to our crushing system. If this is starting to confuse you, please watch the full tutorial video. I go over exactly what the heck I'm talking about in that one. After a little bit of AFKing, we got all 10 stacks of gravel set up, and there we go, 640 gravel made automatically. That is challenge 6 all done. Now let's move on to challenge number 7. Our goal for this is to add a crafting system. In my building example here, I'm going to just replace C with crafting. Again, I go over how to do this in the full tutorial video in more depth. I'm going to speed through it here for you, just so that we all know what's going on. But again, pause the video if you want to try this for yourself. So for this crafting module, I am going to start with the kind of key parts to this. The first step for me is going to be an item vault to hold all of our packages for things that we want to craft that our crafter is not yet ready for. I'm actually going to rotate this around because I was a little bit silly and chose a bad spot. And from here, I'm actually going to get something in called a repackager. This is absolutely necessary for a crafting module. My basic requirement for this is whenever you're making a item, whether it's requesting automatically or sending it over manually, if you require multiple different types of inputs to get one singular output, you need a repackager. In our example for crushing wheels, we only have one input cobblestone to get our one input gravel. For things that are 1-to-1, you don't need a repackager. For things that are 2-to-1, you definitely do. From there, we're going to drop our repackaged item, which is just another package, onto a belt, which is then going to go onto a depot here. This depot will eventually go into our crafter. Now that we have our crafter set up, we need a way to get our repackaged package onto the belt, onto the depot, into our mechanical crafter. Before we place any blocks down, we do need to configure the mechanical crafter to be usable with packages. The way we do this is by grabbing a wrench and right-clicking all of these brass connections on the inside of the crafter so that our crafter now looks like this. From there, packager going into the crafter from kind of any angle, and then a funnel that'll bring our package into the packager to get unloaded into the crafter. From there, I'm going to connect up a cogwheel to our belt over here, and we'll power this with a creative motor, make sure it's spinning the correct way. Alrighty, now that we have our inputting system, we need to turn on our repackager so that it actually repackages items and get our output system in. This output system is going to be identical to what we have here, with a chest as our output, a packager coming out of our chest there, a pulse timer to say, hey, send a package out, why don't you? And a sign designating where our package needs to go. Finally, we need a Frogport to send out our items, and I'm going to set this to send only mode. Now that we have our output system, we need to add in the final thing, which is our accepting Frogport over on this vault here. I'm going to name this Crafter. What we can then do is, we can't really test it, but we can send 9 iron nuggets over to Crafter and pretend that this would work. Obviously, it's not going to since you require factory gauges. Oh my god, it worked. I didn't know you could do this. Oh, we can test it. Okay, so we can make sure everything works. I've learned something new today. This is great. We should see in a second here that our package will be powered, put on the thing, and sent back to A. And there we go. We have automatically crafted our first iron ingot. Fantastic. With that, we can now move over to challenge number 8, which is automating the crafting system with factory gauges. You can see I've added in an existing one for nuggets. We're going to be trying to craft iron ingots. I'll let you pause right now to try to do this yourself. Since we already have the module in, our task is now pretty easy. All we need to do is create a new factory gauge, set it to iron ingots, and then figure out how to craft iron ingots. I have also kind of implied that we have a iron farm here that's creating iron nuggets by putting just a bunch of temporary iron nuggets in our item vault, but now we can create our iron ingots. We're gonna set the source to be iron nuggets, set the use mechanical crafting button, and then we're gonna send this to the crafter. What this will do is send our items to our crafting module here. Now that this is set to crafter, we can just set a required amount. I'm gonna do 2 stacks. That might not be enough for the amount of iron nuggets we have, but we'll at least verify that everything's working automatically with our factory gauges. You can see our repackager is working as expected, and everything is fine and dandy there. One thing to note, you might not be using a repackager here. If you're not, well, this is probably still gonna work because you're requesting and sending from the same storage system. I can assure you that stuff will break if you don't have a repackager. You can either trust me or you can try it for yourself and figure it out the hard way. And while you're doing that, let's move over to challenge number 9. The goal for this is now a little bit different. We have kind of mastered automation. We got it locked in. We know how repackagers work. We know how everything works. This is basically all that I covered in my massive tutorial that is an hour-and-a-half long in way more depth. Now we're moving on to edge cases, to things that more advanced players should do so that they're not lagging out the whole game. What I mean by this is you are going to probably have a ton of processing in your main factory. If you're anything like me, you're gonna have a ton of different blocks that you want to automate. Maybe it's potions, maybe it's blocks, maybe it's ores. Whatever, it's going to be a lot to automate all in one building, and it's going to be really hard to make that one big building look good. So how about we split it up? I have here an example where we have our main factory, which is the thing that we've been building so far in this video, and then I have a supplemental quote-unquote factory, which has a bone meal storage and a flower farm storage. What I'm kind of implying here is that we have a separate factory in a flower forest that requests bone meal frequently so that you can bone meal the grass, farm flowers, and get all of the flowers and dyes that you dream of. From there, those flowers and dyes are stored in this item vault here. Again, this is kind of just an example, so it's really close by, but in our world, let's pretend that this is 100 blocks away or so. Let's also assume that you want these to be separate. It makes more sense when we get to the train example, but we're going a step at a time here. We are not going to be able to connect up these with chain conveyors. Obviously, we know how to send stuff with chain conveyors, but now I want to work on sending stuff from our main factory all the way over to our flower farm factory using these Frogports and belt here. So how do we do this? The first step, or the first thing I would recommend thinking of, is naming conventions. So far in this video, I've named everything A, Crusher, C, Crafter. Really not helpful, really hard to standardize. Over on this side, I've named this bone meal storage and flower storage. At least they have a common theme, they have the word storage in them, but again, not really great naming conventions. What I would recommend to make this incredibly easy for yourself, especially with long-term scaling, is name everything in your main factory, have it preface with a thing. Let's say factory : space. From there, we can copy that over to change everything here to factory crafting, factory C, factory crusher, and factory A. What this will mean is we have to change our signs. Again, not too challenging. And this will make our lives a whole lot easier. What this now means is that we can send a stack of chests, let's say, over to bone meal, and it will send it out and it won't move anywhere. This is kind of expected because we don't have a Frogport named bone meal. Let's, for just the sake of this example, rename this to bone meal. And you can see it still won't update because these are not connected. Remember, they're 100 blocks away. We can't connect them. So somehow we need to make this Frogport accept packages labeled bone meal so that the Frogport will obtain the package, put it in the chest, drop the chest out onto this belt, and send it over to this chest here for this Frogport to then send out. Oh boy, that's a lot. So how do we do that? Well, the obvious thing would be to name this bone meal and click OK. We will then see it get accepted, it goes straight into here, and sent out immediately. Beautiful. Well, now let's do the same thing and send it over to our flower storage. We're gonna run into the same issue where this spins around, and we can't change this because, well, we need to send it to both bone meal and flower storage. So what's the next best bet? Well, we know that everything here is labeled factory whenever it's accepting something. So we could either do the same thing over here and set this to flour space bone meal, and the same thing over here. Let's just add a colon here. There we go. Flour storage. Then we could add here flour space asterisk, and it will accept anything going to flour asterisk. This is definitely a skill issue on my part because this is flour storage. But if we update this to be flour storage, it will send out a package, direct it immediately over to this. That will send out and be eaten by our flour storage. The next thing I would want to do is figure out a way to get items from over here all the way back to our storage system. So let's say I have a stack of corn flours in our flour storage. We first need a way to, send our items back. So we're gonna need a new belt system. And now that I've added that, we have, well, our sending from factory over to flour. We then need to do the opposite of flour over to factory. Let's request our stack of flours to send over to factory A. That is our main storage vault there. This will spin around because, well, we haven't named this Frogport. In the same way, we could name this factory asterisk and it will pick up our package. I want to do something a little bit different in case you, like me, don't want to have to change every single Frogport in your factory. Let's say you've already built your whole factory and you're expanding. So you could have named all of your flower farms flour something, but you don't want to go through and rename everything there. Frogports have some additional modifications that you can make to their name that will negate or cancel out the things that it's searching for. On my other screen here, I have the cardboard package regex. This has a bunch of different keys that will be helpful, like the asterisk that I talked about, which goes for all items. What we want to do is specify everything that isn't prefaced with flour. Because, well, this is named flour, this is named flour, all our other production in our flour farm is named flour. So anything local will go to flour things. Anything that wants to go outside of our factory, our flour factory that is gonna be prefaced with either factory or maybe just crushing, etc. What we wanna do here then is set up a Frogport here to say not flour. The exclamation mark is the character that says not. So if we say not flour asterisk, is that gonna work? No. I'll let you pause here for a moment to think about or try to figure out why this isn't working. I have made it a little bit difficult for you because I am omitting one special set of characters. We are going to need the curly braces for this. The curly braces are used to group sets of characters together. So right now what's happening is that we are saying anything that starts with not F, LOWER, will be counted, which kind of isn't ideal. What we could maybe do is add an exclamation point after each one of these and see if this works. But it obviously doesn't. I don't actually know why. I think it should. Who knows? But this is dumb and stupid for plenty of reasons. So let's go back to what we had before. We're going to use curly braces. I don't actually know why this is the case. In my mind, it doesn't work flawlessly. But if we could put curly braces around everything we don't want to include, including the exclamation point here, we are now saying we don't want the whole word flour, Instead, we want this to pick up everything else. What this means is that this will pick up our factory package here, but if we say, let's request this to flour, bone meal, that package will be sent out and picked up by this packager instead of our not flour one. So this does exactly what we want it to do. So now we can, guaranteed, send everything that we want over to our factory and back using just, why is this wrong? Did I typo? Of course I did. FACORY. Thanks, game. You get the gist. Moving on now to the next example. This kind of uses what we've learned here for something maybe more applicable. This is the pretty much same example, except instead of using belts and stuff, we're using something probably more optimal, a train. There is an item called a post box in the game that basically works as a frogport for trains. What this does is it will, if it has a package in its inventory that is named a different post box address than the post box itself, it will put it on a train once a train lands at the station. In our example here, as I've said, this is a little bit more accurate. We can now pretend that this is thousands of blocks away. Our train maybe goes through the nether to get to our flower farm, and we could not do this with normal chain conveyors because it goes through unloaded chunks. Our goal here is to connect the flower farm, and we can't add more chains, obviously, because we want to use the train as the connecty thing. For our example, we're going to start off with the same principle. We are going to name this flour storage, and we're going to name this flour bone meal storage so that they have the same starting prefix. I like it like that. There are probably ways to do the package regex without starting with those characters, but it's just easier. And then I'm going to name our package frogport over here, the one that is going to connect up to our train, main storage. Our white post box is interesting now though. In the same way we had our receiving frogports be named not flour or flour asterisks, we're going to do the same thing for these post boxes. This post box here, we are going to name flour asterisks so that when the train comes around with any package that starts with the word flour, the post box will pick it up. From there, the package frogport, since its name does not have flour in the name, it's going to say, hey, this package isn't for me, let's send it out onto the chain conveyors. From there, the chain conveyors will find the flour storage or flour bone meal storage that it needs to send it to and deliver it. Let's go over to our other mailbox to configure this as well. Currently, this frogport is set to nothing. I am going to set this to flour asterisks, which is the same name for our post box. In our example, we are just connecting two things. If you're not connecting just two things, and let's say you're connecting 10, you obviously can't name this flour because this one will only pick up post boxes for flour, which means that you would need a separate post box and separate frogport for each and every factory that you have, which isn't ideal. This is really where this shines. I am getting a little ahead of myself though. I totally forgot how these post boxes work, and this is something I don't cover in the tutorial. You gotta right click a train station with it and then put it down. That's how they work. It's real easy. I was so scared of these. They're simple. But okay, we have this named flour, and we have our post box that doesn't have a name. Let's name this main asterisks, because this is going to send everything back to main. From there, we have, let's say, a stack of chains, and we want to send this to flour storage. We should see a couple of things happen. First, a package gets sent out onto the chains, be picked up by our flour frogport, and be stored in our post box. Our post box also has its flag up now. It's a little bit hard to see, but that is the case. And as soon as our train docks, we should see a package arrive on the depot here. I am fairly confident that if you had an item fold on this, it would also work. But in the ponder menu, they used a depot, and I thought it looked cool. We should now see that package get picked up by our... okay. You know what? I just had an issue with placing this down from the world download. If you're running into the same thing, that's what it is. So make sure you rename this flour asterisks. From there, it should, there we go, get picked up, and we can add back in our frogport. I remove this for testing purposes, and that will get sent out immediately. I'm just going to rename this back to main asterisks, and now we should have that set up working now. Let's assume though that we have multiple different train stations using the same train, using the same process. So our train is going to stop maybe at this point here and drop off some packages. That means we can't just name our frogport here flour. We have to name it anything other than main, since that is what I've named everything here, let's say. Again, to do that, we are going to need bracket, not main, bracket. This will require us to rename all of our frogports in this area, which is a little bit of a bummer, but again, not the end of the world when you're adding in this functionality. And in the next world you play in, just make sure you do this. And we should be able to send off our chains over to flour storage, off to the same place, and everything work perfectly fine. This will also then mean we could send, let's say, chains over to mining storage, and it will still get picked up by that frogport, which is exactly what we'd be looking for. I am going to let this come all the way around with our mining storage package. It should get put on the train, and the train should come all the way around to flour. In most cases, since we've named our package starting with flour, it would get picked up by our post box here. That should not happen in our case, because it is now being filtered out. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Fantastic. The final challenge of the video, this is one specifically requested by you all. How do we transfer packages from down below up to maybe a second story? Maybe it's 100 blocks above and you don't want to have chains zigzagging all the way up because that is ugly, takes a lot of time, and is a little annoying. Well, I've already set up kind of how to do it. We have over here a chute tower that has an encased fan pushing items up and chutes dropping items down. I have some signs laying out what the heck to do here and here. So for this one, we're send packages upward using this frogport and barrel. And in this one, it is the return location for packages coming from above. So this package frogport is going to send items back to the kind of main storage area. Up here, I have 2 storage locations, upstairs 2 and upstairs 1. If you've been paying attention for our previous 2 examples, you should probably be able to guess how I want to do this. Our goal for this is to send packages to the upstairs item vault, and then just a quick example, look over here for up and down details. I'm gonna pause this here and let you try to work through it. Now that I've given you enough time to set this up, let's go through it ourselves. The first step that I want to do is set up our frogports up here for our destinations. I have named the things down here A, B, and so on, so these ones are gonna have to be the ones that are actually defined. In an example I used in a survival series that I played, I named all of these potions, colon, and then for our example, let's just do 1 and 2. But for our world, we were doing like glowstone storage, redstone storage, anything that we needed to use to make potions. So this one's going to be potion 2. And there we go, we have our potions 1 and 2. Over on this side, I have labeled the 2 frogports that we're gonna need here. Let's break and replace these. We don't need to worry about naming just yet, but just get them all connected. So as we can see, this frogport is for sending packages downward, and this one is for receiving packages. So all we need to do for this one is set it to send only mode, and that's its job. Since this one is receiving packages from below, all its job is doing is sending them out. Fantastic. From there, we are actually gonna go below. I don't wanna deal with naming of that top one just yet. So instead, let's do this one. This frogport, similarly to the one up top that we already fixed, is just sending packages. So set it to send mode. Done there. And then this one over here, again, a little bit more complicated. So I'm gonna leave it until right now, because I think that's all we need to do. So as I mentioned, the ones up top here have the prefix of potions. The ones down below here are not named anything specific, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. So what we need to do is to somehow make anything that's going to potions go into this frogport here. This is relatively simple. We have our template here. All we need to do is set it to potions and then a wildcard to accept anything. That will then mean anything that needs to go to potions is gonna go up there. I have a couple stacks of frogports here, so I'm gonna send this to potions 1, and we should see our package get sent out, picked up by you, sent up to the top, dropped onto this chain conveyor, and picked up by potions 1. There we go. I'm gonna do the same thing with the remainder of our frogports and send them over to potions 2. This actually sends 2 packages out. The first one is already in the potions land, but the second one should go up and follow the same pattern, going all into there. The reason I'm doing this is because this will be used to test our backwards functionality. So that is this chute tower here. We currently have only set up this thing being connected, but it's not gonna actually pick up any packages. So in order to prove this out, let's send 2 packages over to A. This will send out a package, but this guy doesn't know that he's supposed to be picking that one up. So how do we set the naming convention for this? What I'm gonna do is copy this from down here, paste it up here, and then invert it. So we're gonna do the group collections. We're gonna invert it with the exclamation point, and then we're going to close the group and then say, you can get everything else. So as long as it doesn't start with potions, this frogport is picking it up. That went so fast, but we should see down below that package gets sent out and delivered to A, which means it is working as expected. And that's it. That's the video. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was informative. Definitely let me know if it was down in the comments. If you want to do this type of thing for other things, let me know what kind of topics you would want like a hands-on demo for every like specific thing and weird thing that you don't know how to do. I hope it was helpful. And if not, hey, subscribe anyway. I don't usually make this content as I've said many a time, but that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all learned a lot, and I will see you all in the next one, whatever that may be. Have a good one. Peace.